MoveStream 3. It's wonderful that you can be with us this afternoon. Tell us a little bit about yourself in preparation for this. You come from, what your interests are in dance, or how you came to dance film, and more specifically this dance documentary.
I originally trained as a fine artist, and then I hived off into music for 20 years. Parallel to doing the music thing, I'd always wanted to make films, and I did a lot of experimentation with cine films, Super 8. It's only really when the digital revolution hit and video cameras became cheaper that I was able to start doing it in earnest. And I'd always been a photographer. I'd done loads of photography, so making that sideways move into film was quite a natural step for me, really. But certainly not from a dance background at all. The dancing was just purely coincidental that I had a lot of friends who were dancers or choreographers. And I started making films with dancers in it. I'd actually been doing that for a long time before I even knew anything about dance film or screen dance work. I had no idea that it even existed. I've done quite a bit of documentary stuff. I suppose because if you get involved in video, inevitably people are going to ask you to make documentaries. And with this particular piece, they just commissioned me. They got in touch with me. The commission was that they wanted a documentary of their devising process. They wanted me there right from the beginning as I suppose, as a fly on the wall, to actually try and capture the process from the beginning up until the point of performance. I think there was an element for Balbir, the choreographer, there was an element of, he was interested in being challenged by the camera, I think. So I asked him a lot of pithy questions about his process, about why he was doing what he was doing and how he was doing it. I mean, I think it should be recognised that from the word go, I was told, and they intended to show the film as part of the live performance. We always knew that. So what I mean by that is you go to the venue, you sit down, you watch the film for 15 minutes, which the process and leads you up, takes you up to the point of just before they were ready to perform. You then see the performance, which was a 15-minute performance, and then there was a 15-minute Q&A with the audience afterwards. So the actual presentation of the live show and the film was quite a radical thing in itself. You know, people don't generally structure live performance that way in this country. So I knew that all the way along. All the people knew that. All the people involved, the dancers, the choreographer, the lighting guy, they all knew that was what was going to happen.
How much did your work and your documentation affect the choreography? Given that you weren't just a documentary, you weren't just documenting the process, but in fact you feel as if, this is what I'm getting, that you were part of the collaboration that existed between the dancers and the beatbox person, as well as the choreographer. And how much did your documentary affect the choreography? Did the choreographer come and look at your?
No, I don't think my documenting affected the choreography at all.
Okay.
I don't think the documentary affected the product. Other than that, it created more of an atmosphere of reflection and debate and discussion amongst all the parties. I think the choreographer, Balbir, was interested in his reflection about the process being challenged, and that was facilitated by him being asked questions by someone who was directly there and watching the process going on, and asking him questions and him having to respond to a camera.
So in fact you did. Okay, but in fact, therefore you are in some way, your reflection and your questions are in effect affecting him, because you're challenging him and making him think about. I mean, he's got a lot to say.
Possibly.
Is that you weren't just sitting in a corner very quietly as an observer, you were actually invited within the construction of this.
No, I was very present. I was very much there. I wasn't there all the time. I think I went there 3 or 4 times. I certainly went there at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. I filmed what I saw going on, and then I would peel off members of the ensemble to do little interviews with them. That was a process, really. But a radical departure for Balbir on this show was to get in a young beatboxer, Asian beatboxer called Singh, who's really amazing. And they really, really locked together, Jason the beatboxer and the tabla player. And I think you see some of them jamming in the film. And the two dancers, one of them is a traditional, in inverted commas, kathak dancer, and the other one is a contemporary dancer. Part of what the show was about, or what the dance was about their two different styles synthesizing. So it's very much about a journey for all of them. So I wanted to capture that. I wanted to capture the feelings of the dancers being thrust into this new world and having to, out of nothing, create something. You know, they'd never met before. They had little experience of each other's practice. And I suppose I was interested in capturing how the dancers felt about that, how it was for them, what their emotional journey was, as well as just what their technical, physical journey was. Getting them talking about their relationship with the choreographer, how they felt working with the choreographer. And Balbir was very good in that sense, in that he left me to do that, and he would actually leave the room and say, okay, that's cool, you can talk to the dancers now, knowing full well that I would ask the dancers, how do you feel about working with Balbir? How's it going? What's it like? It was quite an open and quite an honest process. I didn't want to make one of those documentaries that was just kind of sycophantic. It's complex, and creating something and being in a creative situation can be a challenge for people involved. It can be very stressful. It can be very difficult at times. It's out of that frisson and that stress that you tend to get beautiful or poignant or powerful things emerging. You don't get powerful things emerging from situations that are very comfortable. But I definitely wanted to have a dig around a bit at not just what the apparent process was, but what the subtexts were that were going on. I left a lot of the questions in the documentary unanswered and left them to be answered by the live show. My hope being that people watching it would kind of go, you know, and would reflect back on what the questions of the documentary and would find the answers in the live show. There's another thing that's kind of important technically, was a new Canon DSLR. It's called a 7D. I've got a nice lens on it. It means that I can use 35mm lenses now, which has always been a frustration to me with video, that I couldn't use 35mm lenses. And with these new DSLRs that will shoot video, you can get really nice dense blacks, and the colours are a lot more natural, and there's a kind of a depth. You can also muck about with the depth of field. You know, suddenly that's open to you in a way that it isn't generally with video. So it meant I could play with that a lot, and I could really do a bit with focusing on. The whole focus thing was just a bit of a cheesy metaphor for focus, you know, because the whole process was about what people are focusing on. I also had my old video camera there, so you can very clearly on that film, it was a bit of an experiment for me.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, you can see the black and white stuff was all shot on the old video camera system,
Yeah, I was
and
wondering
all
about that.
that's in colour is shot on the new film system. I wanted to somehow make a distinction between the fly on the wall stuff, where I was just filming what was going on, the stuff where I was really present, where I was actually asking direct questions and getting them to, you know, when they're being talking heads. The obvious way round to do it would have been with the fly on the wall stuff. I mean, actually in these studios, I should point out, there were some CCTV cameras. We didn't use them in the end, but that got me thinking about the whole fly on the wall thing. And at first I was going to do it the other way around, and I was going to use the grainy footage from my video camera for my fly on the wall stuff and a high quality camera. But then I decided to subvert that at the last minute. I decided to switch that around. My old video camera I could get a better sound on because it had XLR inputs and that kind of thing. The one downfall of this system is the sound, really. It's kind of hard to, I haven't got that pinned down yet, whereas I had it pinned down with my video camera. So I mean, these are all just technical things, but they're actually technical things that had a direct impact, aesthetics, on
Yes.
what you actually see. I was experimenting with two different systems, I suppose, to achieve that.
So the actual form of the video is kind of amplifying the content. And I really enjoy that because you're kind of slipping in and out of content and form all the time and asking yourself, well, why is the footage gone all grainy now, and what are the choices that are happening? You know, and you've got this conversation. You're not just merely taking in beautiful pictures, and it's not an easy story that's being told because you have made certain choices, and so is the choreographer. So I get a tremendous sense of very of people making choices, and people making choices for something to be unbundled or bundled again. Because normally one is just the fly on the wall, and one doesn't expect these, grainy moments. And you're thinking, well, why did he do that? Was it a bad day of filming?
I have to repeat, I'm from a fine art background.
Exactly.
So that whole form content thing is, it's in me. Yeah, I'm interested in challenging audiences. It was good also that they had a Q&A as well. The audience could then speak to the dancers about it. And of course, you then get to see the dancers after they've gone through the whole process, when it is all resolved, once they've had some time to reflect on it, and you get to ask them, well, how do you feel about it now? And of course, the answers that they gave were very different to what was being brought up in the documentary, So it was very much about the whole notion of creative development. You starting at one point and then you ending up at another point. And sometimes the point that you end up at is not the point that you expect to end up at when you start out at the beginning.
Thank you very much. That was a great interview. I think I learned a lot about your process and about how you got it all together and why it finally ended up the way that it did. Okay, you must keep well.
And you. Thanks very much, Jeannette.
Thanks, Ben, too.
Okay, see you later then.
Yeah. Hi.
Ciao.
Ciao.